What's going on, everybody? Aidan from Birds vs. Boys here, and we are just 1 week away from the 2024 NFL Draft. I'm very excited. This is the best time of year for Kevin and I hosting this podcast is playing GM. So let's do that today with the Eagles. Let's run a quick mock draft as we start to hone in on some players that we think our teams might draft. And with the Eagles, it certainly seems like there's some positions that they are targeting and some players at those positions that they're targeting in round one and the rounds to go. So I am doing a 4-round mock draft because if you remember, we did trade our 3rd-round pick for Kenny Pickett. So we have 4 picks total today, 1 in round 1, 2 in round 2, and then the 4th-round pick there at the end. I'm sure they'll be trading, wheeling, and dealing as Howie Roseman always does. But for now, we'll keep it no trades and run right through them. So the Eagles start at pick 22. I let the mock draft run before we started here just to get to pick 22 in a hurry. And it was very interesting the way this kind of fell for the Eagles, where I'm not sure that they would be thrilled, even though there's some names on the board. But you can see here, there are some runs on the tackles that they'd be interested right before their pick. And I wonder if they'd trade up in that situation. I know J.C. Latham is a very developed product. And then I heard Daniel Jeremiah talk about Fuaga, the tackle from Oregon State, how coachable he is and how well he would work in Jeff Stoutland's system. So to see those two guys go at picks 19 and 21, I'm sure would not be a thrilling sensation for the Eagles as they sit there on draft night. Now, I think Fashanu sitting here, I don't think that that is realistic. The only reason that I am surpassing him, not drafting him here, sometimes with these mock drafts and the AI and the computers and stuff like that, a tackle who's supposed to go top 10 pick, maybe the first tackle off the board. If it's not for Joe Alt, him lasting all the way to 22 doesn't feel realistic. So let's take a look at these 3 guys right here. We got Troy Fautanu, Cooper DeJean, and Kool-Aid McKinstry. The Eagles have hosted all of the corners that are supposed to go early on top 30 visits. They're obviously very interested in cornerback, as they should be, because it was a disaster at that position last year, as we know. But I think my pick here, if he's still on the board, and this might be another guy, I don't even think he's there at pick 22. And in a lot of the mock drafts we've done, he hasn't been there at 22. But it's Troy Fautanu, the guard, and they have him listed as a tackle from Washington. He can play both. Now, obviously, right guard is a position possibly of need for the Eagles. They like Tyler Steen. There was an article written this week. Is like they obviously believe in him. His locker is right in between the starters. And hey, I would love that. I would absolutely love that if he becomes that starter and thrives and is an exciting player. He took him in round 2 last year. You want your round 2 guys to be starters. So I would love to see that. Clearly, he was developmental last year, struggled a little bit when he had to start against the Cowboys. Fautanu, though, even if Steen is good, I just feel like Fautanu is too good to pass up. You know, we've talked about this on the show, but what an absolute mauler he was at Washington. Gets down on guys where it's just like, it looks like kind of just like a steamroller, just rolling and paving things when he plays. That's the best way to describe it. Really good in the run game because he just pulverizes guys. He's a steamroller. And I think you take that malicious intent as an offensive lineman and pair that with Jeff Stoutland's ability to coach offensive line. And I think you really start to solidify a great, great offensive line. I know they're looking tackle as Lane Johnson is 33, turning 34. He'll be the next great Eagle to retire now that Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey have. So I get why they'd want to go tackle with J.C. Latham and guys like that. But if Fatanu's on the board, I think we have to take him there and just take an absolute malicious mauler at the position. Why not? I like Cooper DeJean as well, and I think that's a realistic one at the position. I don't think he's going to make it to round 2. The more I hear from him, the medicals are good. He fractured his fibula, but he'll be very, very good. His athletic metrics were off the chart at his Iowa Pro Day, as we expected, and the fact that he can play corner and safety appeals to a lot of teams. So I think that would be a great, great pick. All right, so this one is going to be an easy one for me, but I'll just go over some of the candidates here at 50, and then we'll have 52 right back to back. Edgerrin Cooper is a guy that the Eagles met with at the Senior Bowl, so clearly there's some interest there. The one thing I have with him, I love that he's explosive and athletic. I think that's kind of what we need. I felt like this team was slow. Well, the defense was a lot of bad things. But I think he's a little bit undersized. And then I worry about the pairing with the Kobe Dean. It's like, all right, well, then we have 2 guys who we like the way they play, but they're both undersized. And how do we deal with that? There's a guy here, though, that, and I'll just give it as a hint. The mock draft is suggesting that I do take him, but I understand why. If it's a guy, if he's on the board at 50, I would be shocked if he is still there. but maybe I'm just filling out the offense. You look at it going into the offseason now that they've signed Saquon and they locked up Landon Dickerson and they got an extension done for Jordan Mailata and Devontae Smith and all these guys are taken care of. The only positions you had were right guard and wide receiver 3. They brought in Paris Campbell, but that's just a one-year deal. Keon Coleman being there at pick 50 seems almost unrealistic because he was so good. Seems like a no-brainer. Don't think about it. Really polished wide receiver, caught everything when he was at Florida State. Tremendous player there. They were tremendous offense until Jordan Travis got hurt late in the year. So at pick 50, if I can solidify this offense and be 11 for 11, all these guys, if you bring Fatanu in and Keon Coleman with your first 2 picks, I'm really happy with how this turned out in the offseason. Locking our guys up, bringing in Saquon, and then bringing in 2 tremendously talented players in Keon Coleman and Troy Fatanu. So I'll take him there, pick 50. Going through some trades real quick. These are some things they have a good amount of stockpile in trades, so I don't think we need to do any of these, although they're pretty good. All right. Let's take a look here at some of these players because I think there's a lot of really good ones to go through here. I just talked about Edgerrin Cooper. I'll talk about Peyton Wilson as well. Good things on Peyton Wilson. Tackles everything. Another, name a good quality about a linebacker. The Eagles didn't have it last year. So Peyton Wilson at NC State seemed to be all over the field, seemed to tackle everything. So we love that, right? Like we need somebody like that. And we haven't had that for quite some time. But he did have injury issues. He's a little bit older. He's 24. So those are things, the Eagles seem to be trying to get younger and younger, and all this offseason they've been getting younger. Like Kaylee Ringo, Eli Ricks, Mario Goodrich, all these corners they have are so young. I talked about Cooper before. Tyler Nubin, I love. Another guy, I'd be shocked if he's on the board at 53. A position, again, I don't know totally what the plan is because they got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in the offseason. Love that they brought him back. I want to see Sidney Brown succeed there. I was so excited when they drafted him a year ago. And then they obviously just signed Reed Blankenship as well and brought him in on a mini extension. So they have options there at safety. So I don't know if it's technically a position of need, but Nubin is really, really good. The guy here that I'm going to go to is Marshawn Nealand, the edge rusher from Western Michigan. I keep hearing about this guy in round 1. I watched a mock draft where he went to the Lions in round 1, late in round 1, and he's done a bunch of top 30 visits with teams. So his average draft position here is 58. We're sitting here at 53. We've talked about this. Hassan Reddick is gone. That kind of there's guys there, but you think about it. Brandon Graham, this is the swan song. Like this is the end of it. Nolan Smith, you want more from him this year, but this is a guy who immediately hurt his shoulder in the first preseason game. He was a developmental guy and you knew it, and he was a bit undersized. So you've got that. And then I love that they brought in Bryce Huff. They solidified Josh Sweat, but in the end, so you have like 2 guys and you hope you have a third. You want to have 4 really good guys. If there's a guy as talented as Nealand here, who a lot of teams are interested in and interested in possibly in round 1, I'm taking him there at 53 and kind of helping solidify that edge where I think that there's a hole now without Hassan Reddick. Because listen, I love Josh Sweat. I'm excited about Bryce Huff. I was excited when they drafted Nolan Smith. But these are all guys, that's 3 total, and they all have question marks to them. We think Huff, he's an ascending player. Oh, we like Nolan Smith, but he has a lot to prove. Oh, we like Josh Sweat, but he fell off at the end of last year, and he came into his career with knee injuries. So it's like, all right, let's make sure, let's be absolutely certain that a premier position is taken care of. So we'll draft Nealand right here. And then, hey, we've got a long way to go. So I'll just cover some things while we do because we have to wait all the way until round 4. And again, I don't hate the Kenny Pickett thing, taking him in with that 3rd round pick. I think it's important to have a good backup. I think he'll be a better backup than Marcus Mariota was. There have been points in the different seasons that Jalen Hurts has been hurt. Obviously had the shoulder injury the year that we went to the Super Bowl, dislocated his finger a year ago, seemed to have a knee injury this year that he played through. So it's important to have like a solid backup. So I don't mind giving up a 3rd round pick for it. I think they have a lot of picks next year with comp picks and stuff like that. And here we are, made it all the way down to our 4th round pick. I'm going to just reject some of these trades. Again, very unrealistic to assume that we wouldn't be seeing some trades there on draft day from the Eagles. They love to do it, whether it's aggressively trading up if there's a corner or maybe even a tackle that they like, or trading back if there's a run on those guys and they think they get them at like pick 26. And then with 2 picks in the 2nd round, I wouldn't be shocked if they try to trade back on pick 50 or 53 to stockpile and maybe even get that 3rd round pick back. So we'll see. Now, here's the thing. I know exactly who I'm going to take in this situation. It is Theo Johnson, the tight end from Penn State. Dallas Goedert, who I love, great pick. He was our second round pick, I believe, in 2018, where the draft where they knocked it out of the park with him, Avonte Maddox, other guys like that. Jordan Mailata was the seventh round draft pick in that draft as well. You look at it, he's the same age now as when we traded Zach Ertz, which is really hard to believe if you think about it, because I feel like Zach Ertz was here for 12 years. But Dallas Goedert's going to be 29. The backup tight end position, Jack Stoll left in the offseason. We have Grant Calcaterra, but how much have those two guys produced for you? They made the trade with the tight end from the Broncos over the offseason, or in the season this past year. He's back with the team, Big Albert O. So I think they're developing him and stuff like that. But to get Theo Johnson here, you see average draft position is 96. We'll take him at pick 120. And it's just another weapon to have, right? Like Dallas Goedert broke his collarbone last year. And I think it's a few times now that he's had to miss some time with different injuries and ailments. So it's good to have a receiving tight end who would be really, really good to add an extra weapon and also be that insurance policy for Goddard. And who knows, maybe Theo Johnson turns into something the way that Goddard did. And in 2-3 years, we're moving on from Goddard and it becomes the Theo Johnson show. So I will take him at pick 120. And that covers it for the Eagles draft. We'll let the mock draft kind of run its course and finish these guys off. There's some guys there that I saw that I liked. Again, I took Fatano in the first round. They've done all of their homework on every single corner that could be there in that position. I don't think Fatano may even be there, but it would be hard to pass him up even if they like Tyler Steen. Keon Coleman, hey, listen, I love A.J. Brown. I love Devontae Smith. I'd love to have a three-headed monster at the wide receiver position, and I think Keon Coleman, in terms of just production and results, it's really hard to beat what he was able to do at Florida State a year ago. You were saying to yourself, he'd be the number 2 wide receiver off the board after Marvin Harrison Jr. To get him at pick 50, come on, let's do it. Marshawn Kneeland, I am concerned with the edge rusher position. I need to see more from every guy on the roster that we have right now. If people are this sold on Kneeland, when there's smoke, there's usually fire. And then Theo Johnson, I think, could pick 120 for a team that needs some backups there with the tight end position. I think that's a really good get. He stays in state. So those are the four picks that I'm taking there. I love it. I think it's really good. And I'm excited to see what the Eagles do on draft day. And we'll take it from here, but I'm really excited. So that's it for the Eagles draft. I will be back this week. I might do this 4 or 5 more times. I think Kevin and I are doing these every single day at this point. As we get closer, like I just said with the smoke, there's fire situation, we're going to start to figure out who they're keying in on, who they're honing in on. It'll be really exciting. So we'll be back. Kevin will be doing some of these as well. Make sure you subscribe to the Birds vs. Boys YouTube for everything that we've got going on.